Yo, it's time to warm up and crack your fingers again for the next battle in your favorite RTS. From old to ancient, perfection to chaos, this list probably has it all. If not, then please have your say in the comments. Welcome back to Game Perfection, a passion project by Karmasur Studios. I'm your host, Karma, who's brought you some kick-ass games. It's dragging behind the keys, brah. Bring that thing up. The best RTS games for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Episode 2. Enough introduction. Let's dive right into it. Total War Warhammer, released on the 24th of May 2016 on PC.
There must be a final answer to halt its advance. Names endless.
The Warhammer world is a fantasy world based on a Renaissance Europe. There's a lot of overlap between fans of historical war games and Warhammer, as evidenced by 2 prior Total War games obtaining fan-made mods that incorporate Warhammer armies. The introduction of mythic characters such as lumbering giants, soaring Pegasus knights, fireball-flinging wizards, and ancient vampires who can take on entire formations of infantry single-handed unleashes a blood-soaked bounty in terms of army differentiation, unit diversity, and new tactics that make Warhammer's dark fantasy feel more natural fit for the Total War series than the real-world past ever did. Each faction's unconventional traits transcend to their campaigns. The noble human empire and the stoic dwarfs operate similarly to traditional Total War factions, with the exception that humans have access to some of the best heavy-hitting wizards in the old world, and the dwarfs compensate for a lack of cavalry with super heavy artillery and mechanical gyrocopters. CARTEL TYCOON, released on the 26th of July, 2022 on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. This is rather a young kid in comparison to the classic OG games on this list, but it impresses a lot. As a survival business simulator, you'll build your narcotics empire from the ground up while attempting to live as long as possible. In contrast to other business simulators, you face the unique challenge of not only trying to make profits, but also avoiding being killed. It's exciting to be able to control the chaos and emerge as one of the region's undisputed crime bosses. To get started, you can also play as a crime boss at various stages of your career. Unfortunately, the stories aren't particularly interesting, but the approach to the narcotics trade is in-depth and complicated, as one would expect from the industry. Its inspiration comes from the narcotics trade in the 1980s and 1990s, and there are a lot of tasks to complete. Even the most mundane tasks are necessary, and you're constantly looking over your shoulder to make sure nothing gets out of hand. Dota 2, released on the 9th of July 2013 on PC.
Often I am asked, what does a hero truly need?
This legendary game began as a faithful recreation of the original Defense of the Ancients mod, which could be mistaken for the archetypal MOBA. In practice, however, Dota 2's purism distinguishes it from most games in this genre. That original mod, which Valve adopted, became a tool for increasing Steam's popularity in areas where the service had not yet achieved the ubiquity that it had in Europe, Russia, Southeast Asia, and China. This is a dizzyingly deep competitive team strategy game, with the core design refined over 15 years. The basic ground rules of the MOBA genre were established in this strategic sandbox. 2 teams, 3 lanes, 5 heroes per team, towers, creeps, jungles, and bases. Your job, on paper, is to lay siege to the enemy base and blow up the enemy ancient. In practice, your job is to manipulate the match's strategic, economic, and psychological tempo, a challenge whose variables change with each game. Age of Empires 4, released on the 28th of October 2021 on PC. Inside and Out, this is a base-building action RTS in the classic style. Jumping into a match as the tenacious English versus the gallant French feels like being transported back in time, not only to the settings of the high and late Middle Ages, but to an entirely different era of strategy games. And there are some aspects of it that feel really good, like comfort food for older gamers. To win battles consistently, you must understand the rock-paper-scissors relationship between spears, horses, and bows. A quick raid to assassinate some of your opponent's villagers and disrupt their economy can be more strategically valuable than victory in any head-to-head battle. Building walls and other defensive structures transform the late game into a tense chess match, in which map control is crucial, but eventually high-tech artillery like cannons will break the stalemate and lead to a decisive sweep for whoever fields the most effectively. When you're up against an equally skilled opponent, the pacing is just right. Iron Harvest, released on the 1st of September 2020 on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. This is a visually appealing, alternate history, real-time strategy game with modern gameplay and a lengthy single-player campaign. It's brimming with ambition, as if the developers at King Art Games looked back fondly on the mid-2000s RTS heyday and said, "We can do that." While it may not have the best graphics or sound, it represents something all too rare for RTS fans, and it's one of the best single-player RTS campaigns. It's packed with unabashedly, nonsensically cool nerdy stuff. The inventive mechs and convoluted equipment, as well as the brilliant character designs, are a delight. It contains tantalizing hints about the larger world, such as how nations are run, geopolitics, recent history, and events on other fronts of the war. It's an RTS campaign in the grand old style, which has only been seen a few times in the last decade. It harkens back to the story structure of RTS games such as Warcraft 3, in which central point-of-view characters guide a cleverly crafted storyline through its conclusion in interwoven faction campaigns. Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, released on the 11th of June 2021 on PC. This is an RTS game with limitless replay value. In the historical single-player dynamic campaign, PvP and PvP battles, you command all troop types. Gates of Hell Ostfront is a call to arms DLC that focuses on the Eastern Front and its great patriotic war between the USSR and Germany. This will take you from June 1941 to May 1945, the end of the war. You spawn infantry and vehicles to engage in combat across the map. There are cover mechanics involved as well, which adds depth to the game. Speaking of vehicles, there's even a 16-player all-vehicle mode. I tried it out in 2v2 and had a great time. Other game modes include capturing control points, total annihilation, and others. The crack of first contact gunfire, tank shells shredding concrete and steel, the ability to control an individual unit is probably the best feature of this game. STARCRAFT 2, released on the 11th of June 2021 on PC. Forget about StarCraft's image as a punishing multiplayer clickfest played only by rocket-powered Korean pro-gamers. This one features a lengthy and compelling single-player campaign, as well as some of the best multiplayer and co-op gameplay I've seen. It provides perplexing but welcome nostalgia. It looks, sounds, plays, and feels like the original StarCraft, which you may have enjoyed over 10 years ago. You'll be Jim Raynor, a veteran space marshal and part-time cowboy who appears in one of our thumbnails. In the campaign, you command the Terrain Forces, which are heavy metal space warriors who begin every battle with a cigar firmly gripped to their bottom lip. Terrain units exude emotion. It's not just in their barks and how they react when they're clicked on, it's evident in their artwork and animation. The single-player campaign is fantastic. Each mission lasts for 30 to 45 minutes and contains a unique twist or idea that elevates it above a simple base push. Bullying your way up the league rankings in the never-ending multiplayer leagues is also enjoyable.
Your freedom awaits.
Hell, it's about time.
Total War Napoleon Definitive Edition, released on the 25th of February 2010 on PC.
I am Napoleon. I am Emperor.
The Definitive Edition includes hundreds of hours of absorbing gameplay as well as all the game's content. It includes all DLC and feature updates released since the game's initial release. It was released in 2009 as a direct sequel to Empire Total War. It's based on the bloody conflict that raged across the Spanish Peninsula from 1811 to 1814. You must select one of three warring nations. France, the United Kingdom, or Spain, and lead your campaign across an independent map with 32 new controllable regions. It's a game in which you engage in epic warfare with thousands of soldiers. The musket fire rages on the battlefield, with dense smoke covering the atmosphere. This game spans the Napoleonic era, focusing on Napoleon's life from his first victory against the British at Toulon to his most infamous defeat that defined Europe's history for a generation, Waterloo, or Mont Saint-Jean in French.
In the shade of olive trees, they said Italy could never be conquered.
Rise of Nations Extended Edition, released on the 13th of June 2014 on PC. Rise of Nations was hailed as an excellent blend of Civilization and Age of Empires when it was first released in 2003. RTS fans continued to enjoy the PC game nearly 15 years later. Following a series of setbacks and the eventual closure of developer Big Huge Games, Microsoft announced in 2014 that it had acquired the rights to Rise of Nations and would re-release the game. The graphics in the extended edition are better than the original. Water and textures have been identified as areas for improvement, and full-screen anti-aliasing has been added. The game was praised when it first came out for how well it expanded on the traditional RTS games of the time. The extended edition adds some modern touches to the core game as well as the Thrones and Patriots expansion. The gameplay hasn't changed much, which is good because Rise of Nations was ahead of its time in terms of gameplay. Northgard, released on the 7th of March 2018 on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. This one appears to be a throwback, a game that would have fit in with Age of Empires and Settlers, but while the inspiration is clear, it would be a disservice to suggest that it's primarily about nostalgia. This Viking saga is inspired by the history-themed RTS games of the 1990s, but it's not bound by them. The fundamentals are still familiar. You begin with nothing more than a shabby town hall and a few villagers, eventually expanding it into a large, defensible settlement capable of withstanding monster and Viking raids. The map is made up of distinct regions. Every region costs exceptionally more food to colonize, so you must plan your expansion carefully, taking into account the impact on your stockpiles. The rate of expansion is a relief as each new layer, from weather to warfare, is introduced. The campaign mission design is good, but every now and then you just want to break free and batter some Vikings in a sandbox. With this, we reach the end of the video. With such great games on the list, I know it would be hard for you not to download any today. I'll see you soon in the next video, probably tomorrow. Till then, this was Karma, signing off.